Coming up on today's Locked On Senators, we made it to the top of Tier 4. We've got 2 new members of the Ottawa Senators and a bounce-back candidate on today's organizational value rankings.
And Jake Sanderson's contract extension forced us to move our SensCentral Citizen from Wednesday to Friday, but it's here. Today's Citizen is Jacob Wolpert.
All that's coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 870 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains, we have to let you know today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. The FanDuel Sportsbook is the official sportsbook of Locked On. You can make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started today. A reminder, you can also subscribe wherever you download your podcast. We're available on YouTube and on social media at SensCentral on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. Today is Friday, September 8th, and Pilsy, I'm feeling good this Friday because it's the last Friday where I won't see Senators jerseys flying around the ice.
Yeah, it's coming up. The rookie tournament in Buffalo is just a week away. And Ross, we were talking before the show. We're so excited to see this roster. Just give me rosters. Give me Sens players' names on lists, and I'm all good. I just want to get closer and closer to that opening day of the season.
Need line combinations and
yes,
overreacting, all of that. We expect the top dogs to be at the rookie tournament. Tyler Boucher, Zach Ostapchuk, Tyler Clevin. We're unsure how everything else is going to fit in, but one kind of annoying part of all this is that college kids are not allowed to attend. They're not allowed to miss classes. What's up with that? We go here to play hockey, not play school. Hey, that's a play. That guy actually went to Ohio State. Who was that? That quarterback that said that?
Oh, I don't remember, but that does sound like a classic college student athlete.
It's an all-time tweet. Here it is. Yeah. Ohio State University, Cardell Jones. The tweet. Why should we have to go to class if we came here to play football? All caps football. We ain't come to play school. Classes are pointless.
Just do it online.
I would like Stephen Halliday to copy paste that tweet and let's get you to the rookie tournament. But all joking aside, it's great to see the Senators making their way back to Ottawa. We saw yesterday at Lalim's Martian was at the CTC, got to meet Michael Andlauer. I actually thought the vlog was good. So if you want to go see all the new food and everything, go check that out. Martian Media on YouTube. But when we go to the in-depths of what was said there, turns out that the players asked for the ice to be in early. So we saw this last year, though. Like everyone coming to town early, there is a legitimate excitement around the players for this team. And gosh, if I'm praying for one thing, it's please get off to a hot start.
Yeah, I'm really hoping the start. Well, it's not so much the start, Ross, as it is November.
Yeah, because they had a 5-game winning streak pretty early last year.
They were 4-2 after that home stretch last year. So if they can repeat that and then just be not god-awful terrible in November, I think things could look up for them.
Well, a lot of the players we're going to get to today are going to have a huge part of that.
Yeah.
Because goaltending wins championships. You know that as a goalie-friendly show. But we also have 2 new guys to get to on today's organizational value ranking. So we're going to get to those first, then get to our SensCentral Citizen to wrap up today's show. And then we'll let you know what our plans are for next week at the end of today's show. But coming in at number 14 on our organizational value rankings in 2023, making his debut in this spot, it's Artem Zub, the right shot defenseman, fresh off his 4-year extension.
Zuby! Zubby, as Pierre Dorion would say. But yeah, Artem Zub, this is right around the sweet spot for him. I think with that new extension, it's going to be interesting to see how things go for him. Not exactly the type of year he wanted last year, but I'm willing to give him some leniency as it was an injury-riddled season, and especially like the broken jaw thing, like, man, like, sure, you can skate around with a cage on and that's all fine, but like your day-to-day life would just be tough, like drinking food through a straw for days on end. Like it would be tough to have your body at peak physical performance. So, and then I think there was a lower body injury he had as well later on in the season. So he only ends up playing about 53 games. So I'm willing to give Zub a pass on last year. 53 games, 3 goals, 7 assists, +2. But Zub's not really a guy. He's one of those defensemen. You're not looking at the points to decide whether he's been successful or not. I think the toughest thing for me, Ross, is the defensive pair of Artem Zub and Thomas Chabot. With Nikita Zaitsev gone, that was what we were finally begging for. And I think eye test and analytically, it just fell flat for me. Like it didn't seem to quite work. I'm not saying it was terrible, but it certainly wasn't great. So I think it's going to be nice to see a switch up of Chychrun going with Chabot and Zub going with Sanderson.
Yeah, and you look at the opportunity that Zub will give Sanderson as well, because I know that Hamonic kind of has that prototypical like defensive frame, but he's kind of more of an offensive defenseman than anything. Like he likes having the puck on his stick. He likes being able to carry it up, and he loves to take slap shots. With that said, Zub is going to defer more to his partner. Yep. In this case, it's great because we're hoping that Sanderson takes that dynamic step forward in his offensive game. And I think Zub's the perfect guy to pair him with. Now, Zub's strong in front of the net. That's never going to be an issue, him battling down low. For him, I felt he was okay last year. He also took a few penalties that bothered me. Like he found himself shorthanded because of him a little more than I would like. Now, again, in that defensive role, not everybody's going to be Jake Sanderson taking 6 penalties and 1,500 minutes of ice time, but I'd like him to probably cut down a little bit on the penalties from last year. That to me would be an easy way where he can get back to the defensive stalwart that we know he can be. He's proven it. And let's be fair and honest here. The Senators the last 3 years have been a bad defensive team.
Yes.
The fact that in 181 games with the Sens, he's a plus player is mind-blowing to me. He's a +7. Like he's got to be one of the only guys who can say that. And I think the sweet spot for him is probably 20 minutes on average. Last year it was 21. Then this year it was 20 and 15 seconds. Like I just think that if you can get him into a situation where he's just killing penalties and getting his rotation as like the 4th, 5th defenseman, like if they're down a goal, I wouldn't even mind if you move Branny up on the right side and try to push for offense and run a Sanderson-Brandstrom pair and then have Zub just as your third pair. He can rotate in as things go. But every team needs a guy like this, Pillsy. And when you don't have one, it's blatantly obvious. So I think that there's a role for him. It's just, did they get maybe a little too excited to give him the 4-year term, knowing that, hey, maybe the jersey sales will pay off because this guy is an absolute fan favorite, and that's not going to change.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned Sanderson and Branny. Ross says, I'm going to continue trumpeting my Branny horn here because, look, they only played 32 minutes together, but they had a Corsi for percentage of 66.67. So, like you mentioned, if you're looking to bump a little offense up, you can put Branny on that pair with Jake Sanderson just for a little bit, and they can have success. So I think that would be a good idea as well.
Last year, he was mostly, this is Artem Zub, was paired with Thomas Chabot for a majority of the season, almost 500 minutes of ice time at 5-on-5. The two of them were together, and yeah, they were all right. Now look at this, though. With them, the shot share was just over 50%, and Zub without Chabot was down at 42.
Yeah.
So he really relied on Chabot for his best minutes last year, but also did well with Jake Sanderson, was above 50% there in the expected goals, and all the analytics shone favorably on that. So what is it for you that you need to see out of Artem Zub this upcoming season that will make you kind of breathe a sigh of relief that this 4-year contract worth $4.6 million, literally the Zaitsev contract, with, I guess, less term, but Ottawa got him when they had 5 years left, so not really. but a long-term deal at $4.6 million. What does he have to do to validate that contract?
I think for Zub, it's all about stability. Like I would kind of say I want Artem Zub to be this generation's Chris Phillips. Like I think that would be good for him. Like he doesn't need to put up big points. It's just play those shutdown minutes. It's the classic line. If you didn't really notice Zub, it's probably a good night for him. He was just making smart, simple plays. And I just hope for his sake the health is there for him, because he had a couple injuries, and like I said, that broken jaw, like, man, that's got to be tough to deal with. So I'm looking for a bounce back season from Zub, and this is going to be big because the Sens are up against the cap here, as we all know. So Zub getting this big deal, there's going to be some pressure on him more than in years past.
Do you think the fans could turn on him?
I don't know. I feel like Zub is like a cult classic. I'll be honest. I think I'm lower on Zub than most of the fan base. But again, I need to give him some leash after that injury-riddled season. So I'm willing to start clean here. But I am a little concerned, Ross, that the back half of this contract could be tricky for the Sens.
Now, in a way that it won't sound as negative, I guess, but like he's only 27 years old. He'll be 28 right at the start of the season, October 3rd. So he's right, should be in the prime of his career for the next 4 years, right? Like that 28 to 32, especially as a defensive defenseman where, your foot speed is important, but top speed maybe isn't as much if he's slowing down by 32. But this should be one of Zub's best years of his career in terms of where he is on the age.
Especially if he gets to play with Sanderson. I mean, not a lot of excuses to have a bad year if you're with Jake Sanderson.
So Artem Zub moved down 2 spots from 12 to 14 this year. He came in at 11 in our 2021 organizational value rankings, and he was 24th in the inaugural time he made the list back in 2020. Artem Zub signed for 4 more years. He comes in at number 14 on our organizational value rankings. All right, Pillsy, before we get back to our countdown and our SensCentral Citizen, you're listening to Locked On Senators.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Guys, FanDuel is the trusted online sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network and North America's #1 sportsbook. Now, football season has already kicked off, but I want to tell you about a fun bet that FanDuel had. It's unfortunately too late now to get on this, but this is the kind of stuff FanDuel always does. So they had, if you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you get bonus bets every time they won in the regular season. So for the large group of people that probably bet the Detroit Lions to win the Super Bowl this year, you would have got a bonus bet from their win over the Kansas City Chiefs in last night's first game. So that's the kind of fun thing you can expect from FanDuel. Always check out their promo tab on the app. I love the app. It's safe, simple, secure, easy to use. You can use your bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. Ross, I wish I tweeted it out. I forgot to, but my lock of the night was the first opening kick to be a touchback. Of course, that hit. You just know that kicker's juiced up to just absolutely send it on that kick, and that's what he did. So those are the kind of props you can find on FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends at the GLEBE Central Pub. You know we love our friends at the GLEBE Central Pub, so much so, feels like family every time we walk through the door at 779 Bank Street. Now, this is a perfect location for a pub because it's right next to Lansdowne, where you can find Red Blacks football. What else do they have at the Glebe Central Pub this weekend? I'll let you know because we get in contact with them every week and they tell us all the great things that are coming down. The Atletico Ottawa games, those seem to be picking up steam. The
vibes for those games were wild, Ross. Like people were fired up.
Pre and post game for the Red Blacks game on September 16th. So next weekend, pre and post game there. The golf tournament is coming up on October 14th. On September 17th, they're also hosting a darts tournament. So you can sign up for that. They're doing a raffle for Landshark Lager. Every purchase comes with a raffle ticket to win a Yeti cooler. You can be among friends. Go check it all out at the Glebe Central Pub. Go find them in the heart of the Glebe, 779 Bank Street, and let them know Locked On Senators sent you. All right, Pillsy. Hey, how about the good news that came out of yesterday? Season seat members, stand up if you are a Senators season seat member, because the numbers are astounding. Did you see this, Pillsy?
No, hit me.
So they are up 35. I don't want to get it wrong, actually. I need to make sure, man. Kevin,
No, just make up a number. Make up a number.
they're up 1,000%. Can you believe that?
That's it?
Can you believe it? They're up 1,000%.
Hell yeah.
No, they're not. But here they are. They are up 35% from last season.
Huge. If there's one thing we know on this show, it's math, and that is good math there.
Well, I can tell you that the fact 90% of season seat holders renewed from last year to this year, it's got to be a good number. Good feeling.
The 10% that didn't are Leafs fans that live in Ottawa, and we're like, it's not going to be so much fun to be a Leafs fan here anymore.
Not going to be so much fun. No, it's never fun on their way out when Ottawa lets them have it like they did at the home opener. By the way, I want to say this now because we're not going to say it in the lead up to the home opener. When Pillsy and I go to Sens games together since the podcast started,
yes,
we are 10-0-1. 10-0-1. And when we go separately, they get their ass kicked.
Yeah, especially. I will literally, you can hold me to this for the rest of my life. I will never go see the Sens play the Chicago Blackhawks in Chicago ever again. Never.
Yeah, like the Jets beat Ottawa 5-1 last year when I was there by myself. You got pumped when you were in Montreal.
Oh, yeah, that was bad too. Yeah.
Yeah, so we need to stick together, and we will do that. You can find us opening weekend. And by the way, ticket link, I'm going to put it in this one. Ticket link, discounted tickets for the Sunday game against Tampa. We sold 55 through our link already. I was just talking to the ticket guy. So come chill with us. Just get your discounted tickets. Why not?
Have we decided where we're going to sit for that? We need to get our tickets, don't we?
Yeah. Well, I was a little nervous. I didn't want to put the cart before the horse, but officially got the time off work. So we will be boots on the ground.
Nice.
Together. So let's roll. And let's continue rolling on our rankings. Coming in at number 13 on our organizational value rankings. It's his first time on the list. First time in the city of Ottawa as a member of the Ottawa Senators. It's Dominic Kubalik.
I'm very excited for Dominic Kubalik. I think people are kind of glossing over him with the addition of Tarasenko. And I mean, rightfully so. Tarasenko is an all-star player, scored 30 goals multiple times. But Kubalik seems like a guy that he's going to really add some goal-scoring threats to that third line. Now, who's going to be on that third line with them remains to be seen. That seems to be up in the air. But I think this is a guy that I recently as in an hour ago, went back and watched his highlights from last season. And the puck gets off his stick so quickly. He's able to pick his spots on goalies. Like, this guy is a bona fide sniper. And I think that Sens fans really should kind of give him some love. Just like our guy Matt did, our SensCentral Citizen of a little while ago. Matt said Kubalik's going to score at least 30 goals on the third line. So let's hope that comes true.
He's done it before. Did it in 2019.
His rookie season, he did it.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys that came over at age 24. But Pillsy, that doesn't mean that his pedigree didn't start before that.
No, he was an absolute stud in the Swiss League, in the NL. I was mentioning to you, I didn't realize this, but he was a NL most points player. So he had the most points in the league, and he won the MVP in that league as well. So this is a guy that he's had success pretty much everywhere he goes. And if you want more recent stats than his Swiss League in 2018, 2019, Ross, how about how he did at the World Championship this season?
8 goals in 8 games. Pretty impressive. Led the entire tournament in goal scoring. Had 20 goals this year, but Wings fans were quick to point out, and I mean, we can just go look at it ourselves too. A lot of that scoring came early in the season, Pillsy.
Yeah, I've got the numbers here if you want them. So for the first 41 games, he played 81 games total. First 41 games, he had 13 goals and 18 assists for 31 points. So 31 points in 41 games, pretty good. That's a 62-point pace. The rest of the season, math guy, he only had 14 points for the other 40 games. So that definitely was tough. But also, you got to keep in mind, the Ottawa Senators basically derailed the Detroit Red Wings season in those back-to-back games close to the deadline, and then they just shipped everyone out. So that team was a dumpster fire for the back half of the season.
Yeah, that's fair. But at the start of the season as well, like I know you had a longer sample size than this, but he was a point per game in the first 25 games. He had 10 goals, 15 assists in his first 25 games of the season. Just came on fire. And a big reason for that is the one-timer was working. You'll notice quickly in Ottawa, this guy's bread and butter is on his stick, off his stick, which is great because that creates pucks around the net. And guys like Shane Pinto and guys who make their money right in front of the crease can go out there and get some rebounds if there are any to be had, if it's not in the back of the net. But an elite shooter. And he showed it at the World Championships. I'm just curious how much consistency he's going to be able to find. So I hope obviously that it works out. But the fact that it's 1 year, I think you're going to get a motivated individual who's playing for his next contract. And he said right when he got traded, he wants to find somewhere he can be long-term. So if they can find a number that works for everyone, that comes later. But right now, it's how can you be as good as you are game 1, game 21, game 53, game 68, and game 82. I want him to be as consistent as an arrow. And if that means that he's a 40-point player, 20 goals, maybe like 22 goals, 18 assists, that sort of thing, but it's spread equally throughout the year, I would rather that than have him just, unless it's November, if he wants to get hot in November, that would be very nice.
Yeah, honestly, Ross, I was going to say I'm not too concerned if the back half of his season slows down because this team needs someone that dominates in the start of the season. So if he's able to replicate that, that's the thing. There's so many other guys that can pick up the slack later on in the season. And as they get to more meaningful games, things are going to ramp up here. But we need someone that can start off hot. So if he's going to start off hot and cool down, that works for me. And at $2.5 million, like if you get a 20 goal scorer like that, like that's pretty good value. Like I honestly see a scenario, Ross, where Tarasenko plays his year out, has a good year, and then signs a long ticket free agent deal somewhere else. But the Sens keep Dominic Kubalik. I honestly think that could be a scenario that works and sign him to like a nice 3-year deal after or something like that. Graphics Ross, I do have to make a quick correction on his salary, 1 year, 2.5. That's Artem Zub's salary in the corner there on YouTube.
You know what's also pretty impressive is that that's the first mistake that we've made, and we've done how many of these?
That's true. We're usually good for a mistake here or there, but to make it all the way to number 13, that's pretty good.
It was almost eerie, right? Like we needed this.
Yeah, we did. We gotta be humbled at some point.
No, we absolutely are, and I'm keeping it up on purpose just so that we can do this. I mean, shame me. Do what you need. And
Ross, it's like the player. Oh, nice. Yeah, it's like the players that after they lose a championship game, they watch the whole ceremony. They watch it all so that they'll never forget how bad that felt. So Ross will never forget how bad it felt having Artem Zub's contract up during Dominic Kubalik's graphic.
Dominic Kubalik played 81 games last year for the Detroit Red Wings, 20 goals, 25 assists, 45 points, had a -15 rating as well. He makes his debut at number 13 on our organizational value rankings. And to you, what's a successful season for Kubalik?
You gotta set the floor at 20 goals. I think we need him to score 20 goals for this team. And honestly, kind of the stat line you threw out, Ross, like 20 goals and 40 points, that area, that ballpark, that works for me.
Yeah, 22 and 18 is what we're 22 and 18 equals 40. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. I'm so confident that right when I said, I was like, wait, yeah, we did it. Math guys right here on Locked On Senators, a silly organizational value ranking. But look, if he comes in here, does his thing, it's going to be impressive. Like 20 to 30. Let's go. Let's get it for him. Dominic Kubalik comes in at number 13 on our organizational value rankings. All right, Pilsy, coming in at number 12. We'll do it right after a quick break, and then we've got a tendy. That's the spoiler. We've got our final tendy on our list, and then our SensCentral Citizen. That's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators. All right, Billsy, welcome back. If you're like, hey, that was quiet for a second, I'm drinking my Athletic Greens, and I want to do an ad read for them so bad. But we'll just give them a little shout out. Shout out Athletic Greens. Shout out FanDuel Sportsbook. Shout out GLEBE Central Pub. Shawarma Palace. And, of course, our friends at Farm to Fork Delivery. We also have new sponsor alert coming soon. Cannot wait to light up this deal. All right. Now, all that said, welcome back to our organizational value rankings. Coming in at number 12, it's a goalie they took a huge bet on, 5 years at $4 million annually. It's Joonas Korpisalo.
Ross, I am cautiously optimistic about Joonas Korpisalo, and I wish I could just dig down and get positive Pillsy only and be on the hype train for Korpisalo, but I do have some concerns. But goalies are crazy. Like, if anyone tells you they can know for certain whether a goalie is going to be good or bad, they're going on a hunch and they're hoping it works out, because it is so difficult to predict goalies, especially when you've got goalies that have been in the league for a while. Joonas Korpisalo is 29 years old now, so he's no spring chicken when it comes to NHL games. He's played over 200 of them, and I think last year was a really good sign, though, because you saw he had pretty stable numbers on a terrible Columbus Blue Jackets team. Then he gets traded to the LA Kings, and for the remainder of the regular season, he was an absolute stud. And then playoffs, he started off hot, and then things didn't work out for him later on and in the second half of that playoff series. But I do think Korpisalo is the right type of goalie to come in here. I think the Senators needed a 1A type goalie to be a good tandem with Anton Forsberg, who's a great 1B. The days of having a prototypical starter, number one guy, and a traditional backup like that, they do like a 60-22 game split, those days are coming to an end. There's maybe 5 goalies like that in the league that can handle that. But I think for success in the regular season, at least, which is where the Ottawa Senators got to start when it comes to goaltending, this is a recipe for success.
And I like that they're getting a guy who's on the ascent, right? It's not Matt Murray where it's like, oh, we can fix him, or Cam Talbot where it's like, oh, can he replicate last year's numbers now at 35 years old? There were so many question marks about that. Whereas for Korpisalo, the real question mark was last year a sign of things to come, or was his numbers in the previous seasons more indicative of the future performance? Now, I would point to the fact that he finally got a lingering hip issue dealt with, sat out for a while, said, I'm going to get this 100% healed. Did, and then he came back, and you can't even use the excuse like, oh, he was on a really good team in LA, because his numbers at the start of the year with Columbus, the worst defensive team in the league without their number one defenseman for the whole season, they were unbelievable numbers there too. So if you put it all together, you're hoping that even if it regresses a touch, you're still looking at a good goalie, because Korpisalo between both teams last year had a .914 save percentage during the regular season. The numbers were ridiculous once he got to LA, a .921 save percentage in 11 games. But overall, 39 games, an 18-14-4 record, a .287 goals against, a .914 save percentage, and 1 shutout. Pillsy, I'm telling you right now, if the goals against and save percentage are identical to what he put up last year, the Sens make the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree, especially if health permitting, him and Anton Forsberg can... Honestly, they just need to have a little bit better than average seasons. Like, anything under 3 goals against and over 9-10 for them. And the offensive weapons of this Ottawa Senators team and the better D-core, they should be able to carry that. So I would say it's not high expectations for them. It's just about consistency, because that was the issue last year with Cam Talbot. Like, he'd have good games and then he'd have games where he absolutely fell apart. So if we can just get some consistency from both these guys, I'm stoked about how this looks.
I'm extremely excited. Not only to see his gear, because we saw our friend Ott and Bothered, great handle on Twitter, posted that he's got like the Ray Emery gold cage.
Yeah.
Like, not like the Anton Forsberg like matted gold. It's shiny.
Sparkling, yeah.
It's spectacular. So I'm really excited to see the new setup that Korpisalo is going to pull out here. Now, when you look at Korpisalo, like the first thing that comes up, if you remember in the bubble, it was actually one of the first games in the bubble. It was game 1, Columbus, Tampa, And Joonas Korpisalo made an NHL record for most saves. He didn't just get the record, Pilsy. He absolutely slaughtered the previous record. And it was in a losing effort, sure. But it was a 5 overtime game. Korpisalo made 85 saves. 85 saves. Like, can you imagine? That's what a goalie makes in 4 games.
Yeah, that's honestly insane. So, like, you've got a guy that is a battler. He's a warrior. He was like 85 saves. I don't care if you win or lose that game. That's pretty damn incredible.
The previous record was 73 with Kelly Rudy in 1987. Now, Shesterkin got close in 2022. He made 79 saves, but still 85 holds up as the most. But 5-year contract, like that, you gotta pay to get in free agency, but typically you're paying on the AAV as well. I think the Senators did well in terms of how they navigated this contract negotiation where, yeah, he got his term, but we got a couple questions actually on YouTube yesterday being like, hey, what about Forsberg? He's got 2 years left. Mads is coming up. What if you like Forsberg? Then you're kind of in a pickle with Korpisalo. But man, the way Korpisalo's deal is structured, and I don't want to get ahead of myself again here, but it is diving towards the end. The last 2 years are buyout friendly, I say in quotations, but you hope it doesn't come to that. And honestly, at a $4 million AAV, like that ain't bad. I'm actually really excited to see how this comes up. I know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Matt Murray, Cam Talbot, I know, but I'm ready to get hurt again. It's a goalie friendly show, and I'm dialing it in for Joonas Korpisalo to play 55 games this year. 50 to 55 games, I think, is the sweet spot for him. You get him in the mix, get him comfortable, and get him on a roll, but have Forsberg spot him out for, like, I wouldn't mind too if Forsberg plays 3 games in a row, different times of the year. If he's hot, he's hot, but I think it's ultimately going to work out to about a 55 to whatever the rest is split, 30 something.
So last year was Korpisalo's most games played with 39. He had 22, 33, 37, 27, 18. So 50 games would be a big ask. I set my split at, 3 games less, but 47, 35. I think typically you want less than 50 games played for a tandem type team. I was looking at 50 games. I think, if I remember correctly, is right around the 15th most games for goalies last season. Like, so the front half played more than 50 and the back half played less than 50. Like the split that Ullmark and Swayman had, I think would be what you're trying to do with Forsberg and Korpisalo. I think they went like it was almost an even split, but that's because they both just had incredible seasons. So I think if you have a little bit closer, 47-35, that works well.
And they did have a bit of a split. I just looked it up from last year in LA. When he got to LA, he played 11 games and LA played 19 over that span. So it was an 11-9 split.
Yeah, so I think that's something that would work out just because Korpisalo's never been the number one guy. He was always working with Merzlikins for most of it, at least.
11-8 split for 19 games, math guy.
There we go. That's good math there. Speaking of math, I don't want to end this on a negative note, but this is a stat that kind of put up a red flag for me, Ross.
Ooh.
Joonas Korpisalo has played 221 NHL games in his career. That's 9 years worth of service. In those 221 games, 4 shutouts.
Really?
That's not very many shutouts. Now, of course, you got to look at playing for a Columbus Blue Jackets team that has not been very good. In fact, they've been quite bad the last couple seasons, but only 4 shutouts in 221 games is a little alarming.
Yeah, it is. Well, hey, what? Shutout in a Sens debut.
Up against the Hurricanes. Let's go.
Let's do it. All right. That's, I almost said Anton. His best friend, Anton's best friend, Joonas. Makes his debut on our organizational value rankings at number 12. I know Ali Dez is going to help us out. He's going to get the full list on his on the YouTube comments. You can also find it on Twitter. We'll put these out as well. But tier 4 is number 12, Joonas Korpisalo, followed by Dominic Kubalik, Artem Zub, Eric Brandstrom, Anton Forsberg, and Mathieu Joseph. That is our NHLers tier. And we've got very good NHLers coming up as tier 2, but that's tier 4 on our organizational value rankings. Pilsy, this has been a lot of fun. I'm glad that we finished a week off at the end of a tier. We've got a 2-person tier, a 3-person tier, and the rest of them right in the middle. 6 players are tier 2 for the very good NHLers. I want guesses as well. Who do you think is going to be the top 11 is what we're at right now. We've got 11 left, Pilsy, and it's all here. So what do you say we turn our page and get over to our SensCentral Citizen?
Let's do it.
Here is Jacob Wolpert. All right, we now welcome on this week's SensCentral Citizen. We are going to the heart of enemy territory in downtown Toronto, well, nearby to Oakville. We are bringing on Jacob Wolpert. You can follow him on Twitter at Espresso Rail. Jacob, welcome to Locked On Senators. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. Happy to be here.
Man, we're happy to have you. And the reason why this came up, obviously, we love having SensCentral citizens from all over, but we actually had met up previously. We were both a part of Sens Army in downtown Toronto for that Game 7 against Pittsburgh. I'm still not over it. Are you?
No, I still have. I still get flashbacks from that day. Mostly good ones up until the end, but it was a good time.
What an atmosphere, though, to get that many Sens fans together in Toronto.
It was, yeah. I've never seen anything like it. I'd actually met my now wife, girlfriend at the time. It was her first time ever watching a hockey game. She's from Brazil, and she was completely blown away. And we've never been able to get back to quite that level with the Sens, but I'm hopeful for this upcoming season we'll be able to make some noise again.
Yeah, that was a super cool event. I believe it was Red Scarf Union. That was the group that set that up together. So shout out to them. That was a lot of fun. And yeah, like you said, Jacob, like before the finishing double overtime goal, it was a great event. Like everybody was having a good time. The excitement was in the air. We knew the winner of this game was going to go on to play Nashville. Everybody felt great about it. And unfortunately, it didn't go the way we would hope. But enough about that. I don't want to talk about that anymore. We're done. So let's get to how we usually start our SensCentral Citizen. And Jacob, how did you become a Sens fan?
So I was actually born in Ottawa, but I grew up as a kid in Toronto. So I was kind of a stinking Leafs fan up until the age of 13 when I moved back to the Ottawa area. Nice. And that was exactly the time that the Senators first made the playoffs. So that was great. I walked into a ready-made situation. It kind of felt like a Golden Knights fan. That's playoffs all the time. This is a fantastic team. I'm happy to be part of this. Never looked back.
So when they made the playoffs for the first time, that was, Ron Tugnut jumping into Wade Redden's arms. Who were some of the players that jumped out to you as your early favorite players with the Sens?
Definitely Alfie, but I was a goalie, at least in road hockey growing up. So Tugnut,
nice.
See a nice. I guess you guys were as well, but definitely the two goalies that Ottawa had then. But Tugnut was the one that I kind of always admired. He didn't stick around for too long, but yeah, he was my first favorite.
What did you like about him?
I liked his last name. That's the first thing that jumped out at me. It's, fun to say. But just the fact that he was able to share the net, but also, be that kind of calm presence when Ottawa needed him the most. I think he was also in the net when Ottawa actually won their first round the following year, if I remember correctly. Yep. So, just calm presence he had.
I would say an underrated, and this might be a future Ring of Honor, Pilsy, best helmets in Sens history. Tugnut's got the mud splash, so simple but so efficient.
Right.
Yeah, Tugnut definitely was one of those goalies that was one of the first goalies, the wave of goalies in Sens history that fans latched onto for sure. Now, when you were in Ottawa, did you get out to a lot of games or?
I did not. I've actually gone to more Sens games since moving to Toronto than I ever did living in Ottawa, which was kind of funny. But I definitely went to a few out at the Palladium and then the Corel Center and then the Canadian Tire Center.
What's your best memory watching the Sens in Toronto? You have a few good stories trying to leave there after a win?
So I've actually never been to a Sens game in Toronto. I've been to some B-Sens games, but we've gone to a lot of games in Buffalo.
Yeah, that's the play.
Yes.
Nice.
I think they know us there now. We've got our usual seats and not these guys yet.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Do you like being a road fan in a city?
I do, because you kind of get that real bonding experience that you might not get with, you go to a home game and everybody's on the same side, but you've got your little group, your little tribe going down into enemy territory, as you like to say. So, that's a real special experience for sure.
Yeah, I like going to Buffalo for games. It's not too far, especially from Oakville. You're kind of on the way to Buffalo there, and I like it after the game. The casino's right there, so if the Sens win, you take your winnings from your Sens bets on FanDuel and let them ride at the casino, and then you just spend the night in Buffalo and then hightail it back over the border the next morning. So it's definitely a good spot for Sens fans that are living in this area of Ontario to get to. Now I see you got a Sens jersey. Which Sens jerseys do you have in your collection?
I've got an old school Alfie jersey from, I think,
like the 90s.
Yeah, well, my mom got it for me just after I moved to Ottawa, so that's
nice.
Probably close to his rookie season jersey. And we got this one. I'm finally going to bite the bullet and get a black jersey this year. I almost got a Dominik jersey last year.
Oh, dodged a bullet there.
Dodged a bullet, exactly. So, going to go with Tim this year.
Okay, nice. That's a perfect transition into this year's team. What are you feeling? How confident are you, not only in the specific players like Timmy or whatnot, but is it playoffs or what?
I was overconfident last year, and we all know how that turned out. This year, I'm more quietly confident.
There we go.
I think we've got the best defense by far we've had since the glory days, the mid-2000s. We've got a healthy Josh Norris, so we've got a 1-2. Hopefully, Pinto signs a 1-2-3 punch down the middle. Yep. Losing to Brinkhead is tough, but Kubalik and Tarasenko, I think, will more than make up for that offense that we lost. Still not sold on the coaching. I know the new owner probably wants some time to see how things go before makes decision one way or another. But I think that's still their weakness, is the behind the bench staff. But if they can actually get off to a good start, I think there's nothing but good things for them this year.
Yeah, it's all about the start, that's for sure. That pesky November always gets them. So you mentioned the forward group, you mentioned the defense. How are we feeling in the crease? Hashtag goalie friendly show. We're all attendees here. New big addition, Korpisalo signing a 5-year deal, and then he's with his old buddy from the Cleveland Monster days in the AHL, Anton Forsberg, those who know each other well. How are you feeling about this? Do you feel like this is a tandem situation that's going to work, and who knows who's going to be the hot guy from night in, night out? Do you think Korpisalo is going to be kind of the starter and Forsberg's the backup, or what dynamic do you think will need to happen for these two to have success?
Well, I think Korpisalo is going to get every opportunity he can to grab that number one job. He's going to start out in net. Forsberg, and obviously he's got the experience to step in where needed. But I think, based on the amount of time they signed him to and the dollar figure, I think they're really pushing for him to be that number one goalie that Ottawa's really lacked since Andy left.
Yeah.
Now, Tim Stützle, you might get the jersey this year. Are we setting the bar at 90 points again? Higher? Like what's the ceiling you think for Timmy Superstar?
So we were at that final game in Buffalo last season. He got in his 90th point, so that was awesome. He couldn't quite get the 40 goals, but so I think he's definitely cracking the 40 goal mark this year. I think he can hit 100. I think he's going to be the first Sen player to hit 100 since maybe Heatley?
Yeah, Heatley and Alfie are the only guys to ever hit 100 points in Senators history. Heatley did it in back-to-back years. And so were you at the game in Buffalo, not at the end of this last year, but the one the year before as well? Because they ended.
No, I was at this one last year, Andy's final game.
Right. Totally. Because I was going to say the year before they were trying to get Brady 30, and it was the most obvious thing of all time. It was so funny. Them try to tee him up, but hey, that's a special moment though with Craig Anderson being out there. Like, was it noticeable even amongst Sabres fans that they were saluting him in what ultimately was his final game?
Oh yeah, it was a really nice moment. Both Sens and Sabres fans are giving a huge standing O at the end, just together, just both recognizing how much he meant to our respective franchises. Really.
How would you want him to be remembered as a Senator? Are you a Ring of Honor guy? Are you a jersey retirement guy?
Not jersey. I don't know about jersey retirement. That's a high bar to clear, but Ring of Honor for sure. I think he deserves it.
Jacob Wolpert, really appreciate you joining us. Everyone go give him a follow. Espresso Rail on Twitter. We got to pump those numbers, Jacob. Let's go. It's a new season.
Yeah.
Let's get after it. Really appreciate you coming on the show and looking forward to doing this again in the future.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate the time. Go Sens, go.
Boom, little go. All right, stick taps to Jacob for joining us. Really fun conversation. Hope you enjoy that, and go give him a follow as well on social media. All right, Pilsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
Final thoughts for me is I can't wait to get more released goalie gear. We saw Anton Forsberg's new helmet. We're not showing it on the show and breaking it down yet. We want to wait for more helmets to come through. We have the exclusive rights to be releasing Mad Sogard's helmet when it comes through. We're waiting on that. And then we did get a tease, like Ross mentioned. Otten Bothered on Twitter posted a video of Korpisalo's shimmering, shining, sparkling gold cage that's going to be added to his mask. So can't wait to see what he comes up with as well. I mean, you sign a 5-year deal, you better invest in a pretty sweet setup for that team.
Oh, yeah. It better be looking sharp here. Look good, feel good, play good. And that's how we're going to lead into next week, where we have the final 3 tiers, Pilsy, coming up in our organizational value rankings. Each team is slowly trickling out their rookie tournament lineup. So we'll have that to discuss and debate, and whether or not, guys are going to play 1, 2, or 3 games. Because we saw last year, Jake Sanderson played 5 minutes. They're like, yeah, you're too good for this. Don't need those clowns in Montreal running you around and, trying to take your head off at this tournament. So him and Pinto only played 1 of the 3 games. Is that going to be similar for other guys this year? We'll have those discussions and more next week. And then once rookie tournament's done, we are going heavy on the biggest questions facing the Ottawa Senators. We're going to get into some hot takes going out, perfect scenarios. And I mean, the black cloud hanging over all this is, will Shane Pinto be in the lineup? Not only on opening night, Pilsy, on opening preseason night. Get this guy at training camp. I don't want him getting on the treadmill when things are going 100 miles an hour. I want him to be able to settle into his role and be in a proper position this year, not in the top 6, right there on the third line in an important role. So let us know your comments as we head into the weekend. If you missed any of the show, we've obviously got a full plethora of activity coming. And yes, Pilsy will be the reigning Ring of Honor champion as we go into Sunday's Ring of Honor. It's going to be a fun one. So stay tuned for that and more. For today, we say goodbye. Have a great weekend. We'll chat with you on Sunday. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.